So if you pay attention to our Twitter account, and by the way, go follow us on Twitter, why not? We put this tweet up a couple nights ago about the Phoenix Suns, and I just want to clarify, that was Ben who sent that one out, not me. I did not pick the Suns to win the NBA championship, so no one make fun of me for that. You can make fun of me for picking Luka as the 9th best player in the league.
Yeah, I'm gonna get cooked for that, and rightfully so. I just thought this Phoenix Suns team, Beal, Booker, KD, they were just gonna outscore everybody. No one would be able to stop them. Not only have they not done that, they also can't stop teams on the other end.
Yeah, they're not cooked entirely at this point, but something's rotten in Phoenix. Before we start talking about the Phoenix Suns, if you haven't already, make sure you leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So yeah, the Suns have not gone off to the start that they wanted, or really what anyone predicted for them. They're 14-13 overall. They're 3-7 since they ripped off a 7-game winning streak earlier in the year. They just took an L to the fucking Blazers of all teams, which, trust us, is a bad look. And of those 3 wins, they were against the Grizzlies, the Warriors when Draymond got ejected, and the Wizards.
And let's not forget that Wizards game. They were down like 16 points at home or something. How does that? That's inexcusable. I don't even care if you won the game. The fact that you were down that much at home to the Wizards, not okay.
If the Blazers were down 16 at home to the Wizards, we're furious.
Right.
And we suck.
They're 10th in the hyper-competitive Western Conference. Really not the conference you want to start slow in. That's going to hurt you later on in the season. And I picked them to win the championship. This was supposed to be a title contender. You trade for Bradley Beal in the offseason. You brought in Frank Vogel to patch the holes on defense. And they completely revamped their supporting cast.
And lest we forget, they don't control their first-round pick until 2031. So why have the Suns started slowly? Well, the biggest and most obvious reason is injuries. Both Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, they've missed significant time. Beal especially. I mean, he missed the Suns' first 7 games, played in 3, missed another 12, and then sprained his ankle in his 3rd game back. I mean, talk about a guy who can't catch a fucking break.
Yeah, it's just been sad to see because we've been waiting so long for the big 3 to play, and then they finally play, and then he gets injured again. I guess it makes sense. I mean, he's a guy in the past who's dealt with injuries, but god damn.
Yeah, and that's my thing. It's like people could say, oh, injuries have kind of ruined them. And yeah, that's true, but it was also pretty predictable. I mean, Durant, since the Achilles injuries, missed 33 games a year. Booker last year missed 29 games. And Beal, who in 2019 played 82 games for the 2nd straight year, since then, he's missed an average of 27 games per year. Like, yeah, injuries suck, but this is not a team of Iron Men who have been consistently playing 75 plus games every year. And then all of a sudden now, oh, they're just getting injured and getting unlucky. Like, you could see this coming.
You've seen this before?
11 times, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and the oldest of the 3, Durant, he's only missed 4 games this season, so credit to him. But people have been saying, this has got to just be karma, the Nets, and now this, for joining the Warriors. Like, you got your 2 cheap titles, and now you're cursed from the basketball gods for the rest of your career.
The basketball gods never forget.
They don't. They do not.
I actually haven't heard that, but I love it.
And really, one of the main reasons, and a lot of people saw this coming into the season, just the lack of supporting cast. Like, you look at the supporting cast, Eric Gordon, he's been pretty good. Nurk's been solid, and Grayson Allen has been good. But besides that, no one else has really lived up to the hype or just the expectations. Josh Okogie, Drew Eubanks, Jordan Goodwin, Nasir Little, all have really not made a significant impact. And then Utah Watanabe, they brought him in as a sniper. I mean, in Brooklyn, he was shooting 44% from 3. That's down to 34%, a 10-point drop off.
Yeah, he's been the big disappointment for me. I mean, he developed a great relationship with Durant in Brooklyn. You bring him in, have him hit like 1 or 2 threes a game, and like the one thing they brought him in to do, he hasn't been able to do it.
He hasn't done it. Simple as that. Other problem, we mentioned it in the original Suns video, they don't have really a natural point guard. I mean, the only person who is a point guard on the team is Jordan Goodwin, and he's a whatever player.
He's a guy.
Yeah, Book's been decent in that role. I mean, he's a good facilitator, but that's really not the natural fit for him.
Also, I gotta say, playing 35-year-old Eric Gordon 30-plus minutes per night is just not sustainable. I'm sorry. Also, Frank Vogel seems like kind of a weird fit with this team. Now, there was a lot of optimism this offseason when they brought him in. I think mainly because they didn't bring in Doc.
True.
So, you bring in Frank Vogel, you just won a title with the Lakers, obviously a great defensive mind, and I think the hope was that he would help take the Suns to the next level defensively, because, I mean, dirty little secret about the Suns last year, they were actually a really solid defensive team. They were 6th 6th in opponents' points per game. They were 7th in defensive rating. So like, could Vogel help push them over the edge? That has not happened. They have regressed big time. They're down to 15th in opponents' points per game, and they're 17th in defensive rating.
Yeah, I mean, they had Mikal Bridges last year. They had Ayton. Those are guys who can play defense. You look at the roster, you got Nurkic, who can play defense, Josh Okogie, and that's about it. Metu, they've been playing recently for defense, but no one else on the roster can really guard, or at least is like an elite defender. They don't have that whatsoever.
And that's the thing. It's like Vogel can be as good a defensive coach as you want. And he is. Like, in terms of defensive coaches in the NBA, he is the best of the best. But if you look at all the times he's had good defenses, Indiana, he had Lance, he had PG, he had Roy Hibbert. In LA, he had AD, Caruso, KCP, Dwight. There is no one in the Suns rotation, like you said, that is a consistently good defender.
Yeah, their probably best is Nurk, and even Nurk, he's got his holes on defense for sure.
We know.
we saw it for years.
The most surprising thing for me, though, was how the Suns' offense is kind of just average. I mean, your whole reasoning for not being concerned about their defense was, oh, they're just going to outscore teams. Well, they're 15th in points per game, and they're 13th in offensive rating.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get fixed when Beal's back full-time and they're all back full-time, but I mean, the idea was you got Booker, you got KD, that's your 1 and 2, you got Beal as a third option, and then you surround them with some decent shooters, Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon, Utah Watanabe. It just hasn't happened. They haven't been healthy, and the shooters have not been shooting well.
Yeah, and I was really confused looking at like all their offensive stats, because I was like, okay, what are we missing? Because I looked at all their offensive stats and it's like, well, their shooting percentages are fine, their assist numbers are fine. So I dug into their isolation stats, and this was really tipped off by this play that Devin Booker had against the Blazers. He literally gets the ball in the corner with 15 seconds left on the shot clock, doesn't do anything for 10 seconds, dribbles into a double team, and then throws up an air ball.
Yeah, that play was hilarious.
So I saw that play and I was like, okay, I gotta check the stats on their isolation. So KD goes in isolation on 18.1% of possessions, and Booker is on 14.8% of their possessions. And their effective field goal percentage when they go to isolation is terrible. KD's is only 40.8% and Booker's is a flat 40. Of the top 20 players by frequency in isolation, only Jeremy Grant and Miles Bridges are worse. And if you look at points per possession, Durant averages 0.9 and Booker averages 0.89. Again, of the top 20, only Jeremy Grant and Paolo Banchero are worse. So what we really learned is Jeremy Grant shouldn't play in isolation anymore.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's Jeremy Grant. He's got no one else to space the floor, so it makes sense. For the Suns, though, you'd expect Kevin Durant, like in Devin Booker. If you had to ask me who are the best isolation players in the league, they're two guys that come to mind. So I'm really shocked by this. And a lot of times they just get stuck.
That's their problem. I mean, they're getting stuck in these isolation attempts because they're not getting out on fast breaks. They're 27th in fast break points. So, you know, most possessions, it just ends with a KD or a Book isolation. And for whatever reason right now, they just can't score.
No, they cannot. So let's wrap this up. I mean, it's obviously too early to say they're cooked, but the whole problem is like the it's early excuse, though, you know, we're gelling, we just need some time. They're really running out of time because we're what, almost like a third of the way into the season at this point? At some point, you got to figure it out, and at some point, it's not early.
Yeah, I mean, if Beal can come back healthy and Booker and KD can get their act together in isolation, then, I mean, yeah, they definitely have potential, but really that's all they have right now is potential. And you mentioned it earlier, like, it's starting to seem very, very familiar to KD's time in Brooklyn. Oh, you got this amazing big three. They never f***ing play together. I will say, though, the Brooklyn big three, bafflingly, has played together more than this big three have. They have played together one game.
Yeah, and also credit to that Nets big three. When they played together, they actually won. This big three has played one game together, and they lost it. So,
at home.
Yeah, at home to the Nets. So, obviously, I'm not writing them off. I picked them to win the title, so I'm praying they turn it around. Plus, the one thing I'll give them is the Western Conference is absolutely stacked this year, but there's not really, besides the Nuggets, that one team where it's like, okay, they're going to beat everybody. Every team, honestly, including the Nuggets, has their flaws, so if this team can turn it around, still not a team I'd want to play in the playoffs.
That's the video, guys. Do you think the Suns are going to turn it around? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.